And capitalism, the way it was intended by the founders of the United States, was based on a truly spiritual connection between humans, where the government should not have anything to do with anything. Hello, Russell. Josh again. I know you can't get rid of me. Well, I hope you enjoyed the last one about politics being possibly looked at from a four-dimensional perspective. What I'd like to talk a little bit now is something a little bit. It's basically the idea of how money and the way we use it, and its connection obviously to our spiritual nature. And so, like, you know, I think it's pretty common. We know that money is basically, you know, it's in a sense emotion, or it's basically sharing. You know, it's my time. You know, it's a way of packaging time into something that I can exchange. Could be eggs, it could be a chicken, it could be a cow, it could be, you know, a couple of hours, you know, working on your house. If you help me with my my bookkeeping, right? So it's my time, it's my energy, which is, you know, a part of who and what I am. And so it's not any more or less important than anything else. And so one of the things that I hear you talking a lot about, Russell, and I'd like to sort of push back a little bit, I guess, is the idea of capitalism being a nasty thing, because true free trade, free exchange of goods and services for whatever you want to exchange it for, is the truly highest spiritual economic system that we could have. That is true capitalism. What we're experiencing today is not true capitalism. What we're experiencing today, well, honestly, I don't know. I don't believe that Europe has ever really experienced it. In the United States, we did in the beginning, and I sort of would suggest look up sort of the original intent of the Constitution, which was antitrust. So it was against corporatism. It was against stock exchanges. It was against you having to work for, you know, the people that own your stocks in your company, and obliging the companies to work for their customers. That was the original intent, and the reason why we left England, because there was no true free trade. The government had its taxes, it was in between everything, and there was nepotism, there was favoritism, there was, you know, all kinds of problems in Europe that have been going on since a while. You know, truly for thousands of years, Europe hasn't really understood what sort of true free trade and open trade and what I would consider true capitalism to be. And I think that's also, if you look historically and you look at, you know, the founders of the United States and what they were writing, that is what they intended to create. Unfortunately, we have a big problem, which is as soon as these hardworking, you know, founders of whatever it happens to be, it could be a business, it could be, you know, an associate, it could be whatever, you know, whatever you're founding, right? Whatever you're, you know, it could be a place, you know, a farm, you know, you're starting a farm, you know. So the initial people who knew the hard work behind creating something, we're always able to understand the importance of this idea that my time, my energy, and stay out of the way of that. I will exchange my work and my time for what I want. And the more generations you get away from that original founder, then all of a sudden we start taking things for granted. And it becomes very easy to fall into sort of this complacency, this idea that sort of the way what we're kind of experiencing today, this that things should just be given to us. We in America have people complaining about sexists and all this stuff, when right now in North Africa, I don't know how many people know this, what's going on, what sort of these Muslim nations, I'm not against religious Muslims, I'm talking about the nations, what's happening, the trade slave, the sex trade, from these black Africans trying to get into Europe. It's absolutely horrendous. And let's just go to Saudi Arabia and all this. So and what the Chinese are doing, it's just so. But at the same time, because these people are so ignorant, they don't have any idea, they don't know what the hell they're talking. So when it comes to capitalism, I think people are also a little bit lazy about what the founding fathers of America actually intended and what true capitalism really is, and how we are very far away from that today. We're living in absolutely 100% a fascist nation, more or less around the world. And it's been that way for a long time. Okay, basically it started to happen in the late 1800s, early 1900s in the United States, when the Rockefellers recaptured this English colony through the banking system. And we all know about 1913 and the Federal Reserve and all that good stuff. But what a lot of people don't understand is that there was a lot happening at that time. They absolutely shut down the sort of competition for chemical allopathic medicine. They shut down the homeopathic and the naturopathic universities. They took away the funding. Okay, already there we have a big problem. You see, that's fascists, where the government is subsidizing certain perspectives, certain companies. Okay, there's a collaboration there, and obviously, if you're talking about sort of health and politics, and you're talking about basically everything, it starts in the education system. So if you can get people to get some blinders on and look at life in a certain way, and so a good example of that is until the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and really until even the late 70s, mid 80s, they called it the natural sciences and the liberal sciences. Now we've taken nature out of that and we've divided everything. Before there was nature that connected all of the different sciences, because everything had to do somehow with what you could observe in our lives, which is sort of nature, right? Now we don't have, a lot of people don't have a lot of nature around them, but nature is where science originated from. And so it seems strange to have to say that, but and so today so much of science is just a cerebral exercise that's not based on anything observable. And one of the best things of that is, examples of that is well, I guess you could call it, so in socialistic, so the social fabric, we've got genders. It's like, and there's not just two genders. Now we've got infinite numbers of genders, which is ridiculous. So it's a mental sort of exercise that has nothing to do with reality. How about sort of physics and astrophysics and all of that good stuff? Well, we have dark matter. Okay, dark matter. Haven't found it. They spent literally trillions on BERN, the accelerator, the particle accelerator. Nada, nothing observable has ever backed up what their theories of gravitational sort of the universe based on gravity. A lot of people don't understand this, but they have trouble sort of being able to explain how gravity is the truth of the universe, and that's how the galaxies and everything work and whatever. They can't explain it through observable science. There's no, so they have to tweak, and they're tweaking tweaks, and then they're tweaking tweaks of tweaks of tweaks. So it's just a joke. And so now we have this, what's it called? I forget the name of the new telescope that you just sent up there. Anyways, I forget the name, but I'll put it. So now they're studying the radio waves. Excellent, because we see only a very limited frequency around us. So when you start studying the radio waves, all of a sudden you can see all of the electrical activity happening in the universe. And guess what happened? Everything is connected, okay? They're through electricity, through these, like hundreds of thousands of light year long, they call them Birkeland currents, flowing through the through the universe, connecting all of these different places, where before they thought it was just darkness, there was nothing there, right? Where they thought their dark matter existed. Instead, it's like, holy shit, look at all of that stuff, all of that structure, that electrical twisting, all of these amazing, and where you find sort of these, along these currents, these electrical Birkeland currents, you find galaxies. So what's amazing is that it's very much like two different things. The physical level, the umbilical cord, that twisting, right? The DNA, that twisting, which is exactly what the Birkeland currents do, twisting. So, and then also on a spiritual level, we have this sort of, if you understand sort of the Asian kind of idea of the different chakras, and how we have sort of this initial energy coming into us that's going through these different transformers and being sort of slowed down and moved into physical reality. Exactly the same. So, excuse my coughing. So we can see that this is the way the universe is supposed to be explainable. Observable phenomena in the small little things like human beings, umbilical cords and DNA. And if you can't accept sort of this sort of idea that we have a spirit that is powering this body, and giving it life, to the universe, the galaxies actually being formed and structured around these toroidal sort of energy flows. And so everything makes perfect sense from an electrical point of view. And which also is interesting because I work with the nervous system, and so my job is harmonizing, or it's actually called integrating on a practical, physical, traditional level. They're integrating the childhood reflexes. So these are neurosensory motor programs, the posture and dynamic movements of our bodies, and so there's a lot of ways of looking at that, where each of these different programs could be looked at as kind of like an instrument in an orchestra. And so we're fine-tuning the frequency of each of these different instruments to be able to make a truly harmonized orchestra, where we get all of the harmonics coming out of it as well. Whereas right now, most of us are at about 30%, great athletes are at 40, maybe 50% of being truly well integrated on a neuropostural programming level, which means that our nervous systems aren't humming. They're not at the right frequencies, and so that cuts out on our ability to be able to perceive and to understand, and also to express ourselves. And so basically, capitalism. I don't know how I got off on all, but capitalism is a true free exchange of energy, okay? And that is what the original founders intended for the United States. And if I as soon as you create any kind of central organism where my sharing has to go through something else, you know that it's going to be a problem. People can't even whisper a sentence to, like, a 3-4 word sentence to each other without messing it up 10 people away. Okay, so as soon as you get government involved, there's no way that it's going to work. Okay, now I believe differently than a lot of sort of what Europeans have been taught, which is that left to our own demise, the human is an egocentrical and terrible thing that is only thinking about itself and will do anything to get what it wants. That is completely wrong. Okay, from what I've been able to understand from my work, looking at it from an evolutionary point of view, that our nervous systems are evolved through the different evolutionary stages. Each stage has its own ability, its own lesson in a sense, that it passes on through, and we have all of these 3 stages. If you look at the development of the embryo, we go through the fish, the reptile, the mammal to become humans. The fish, curiosity. The reptile, I'm saying this really quickly, it can get deep, but fish, curiosity. Reptiles, courage. Mammals, empathy. Okay, those are the 3 animalistic sort of things that we need to dominate. We need to learn to master each of these different evolutionary stages, which is part of the neurotraining. There's the fish level, the reptilian level, and the mammal level. Now, the human level, we don't have any idea what that's about. Nobody, or very, very few people, are functioning on anything close to a human level. Barely functioning on a well-integrated mammal level, okay, where at least we have the curiosity, the care, the courage, and the empathy to be able to function on a hormonal level, on a behavioral level, on a social level that is functioning. Okay, forget humanity and what humanity has evolved to. Are we just mammals on a 2.0 level, or is there truly a big difference, as we see, between these other 3 stages, where humanity, being the only erect animal, we're the only animal having a vertical connection to the planet, to the universe that exists on this planet. And so what does that mean? You know, what does that mean? I mean, we're not there. But there is a way to train it. There's only a couple different sort of physical abilities that open up our neurological sort of abilities that make it consciously accessible. These abilities, spiritual abilities, or whatever you want to call them, but something very different than working off of this horizontal curiosity, courage, and empathetic levels, which are important, absolutely, but that should be our absolute base level, and we're not there. And capitalism, the way it was intended by the founders of the United States, was based on a truly spiritual connection between humans, where the government should not have anything to do with anything, and humans, through their true inherited natural genetic, proper genetic development, are good, healthy, happy, caring humans. And so when they see somebody in need, they will help them. They have the empathy, they have the courage and the curiosity to observe somebody in need, the courage to go and do it, and obviously the empathy to perceive that somebody is suffering. Okay, so I completely disagree that anything that's going on this planet has anything to do with true capitalism in any sense, the way the founders of the United States intended it. It was meant to be a truly spiritual connection, that money was only a mechanism of exchange of my work, my expression of my soul through this body with another soul through their body. That is true free capitalism. That is the only thing that should be striven to have on this planet, maybe throughout the galaxy. I don't know, through the universe, but for sure, what we're experiencing now is fascist, basically corrupt governments around the world. I don't know if there's anywhere anymore. The United States is still the closest thing to it, because at least at some point we have a document, that maybe isn't so very clear anymore in its intent. It's been watered down and sort of through government policies and all that bullshit, so watered it out. So now corporations are all good. We've subsidized the kind of medicine, the kind of research that is making them all their money. How about military, right? To protect their economic interests in oil and whatever it happens to be, that flavor, their diamonds, their minerals, their gold, whatever, of that area, of the planet. They use the military of the good people of the United States, of the United Kingdom, of France. They're being used by these sort of power elites to do their bidding. And so, I don't know, that's just my perspective, Russell. I would love to hear, your thoughts on that. I think, from a spiritual point of view, it's kind of obvious that everybody should be given their free will, and though in Europe it's believed very, very, very much so. I lived in Sweden for 18 years and then in Italy for 16 years, so I understand well this European mindset of the government is the savior, the government is going to help everybody. It's just we have to tweak it. No. That's all sort of brainwashing the populations for ages that guns are bad, people are bad, everything is bad except for basically the government. And so under this form of soft communism that Europe is living under, and a lot of other places around the world, because otherwise humanity left to itself, it will self-destruct and they'll eat each other. There'll be these zombies on the streets. It's just wrong. Okay, humans are caring, so they're curious, courageous, and empathetic, and have a soul that in some way they're trying to channel this higher stuff through. But until you get these lower levels really, really fine-tuned, until you get your curiosity working, until you get your courage really up there, until you get your empathy really up, and these are connected to the behaviors through the movement systems of those different evolutionary stages, we can never move on to becoming truly integrated humans. And so yeah, tell me what you think. If you want to come by, take a look at my very new and underused locals page at nowliving.today, or Neurotraining, nowliving.today I think it's called, which is also the name of the site. So if you want to come by,